One of the things I've really enjoyed about running in this race has been participating in a number of public debates and forums on the campaign trail. And you know, there are clear differences between my opponent and me. And quite frankly, I want people to know exactly where I stand on the issues. I also want people to know exactly where my opponent stands. Each event was recorded by members of the audience on a cell phone, and the candidates are all on the record. Our positions at these public forums were clear as day, and they differed greatly. I wanted to take a minute today to give you an opportunity to see the responses on one issue in particular. So without further ado, here's the question and our responses.
And which of you support constitutional carry? Very good.
Can I say this?
Sure. Would you like to expand on that?
Sure.
I support constitutional carry with one exception, and I polled every sheriff in the district, and I talked to a man named Jack Wilson. I don't know if Jack's here tonight. You all know Jack Wilson? Jack Wilson. Had a conversation with Jack Wilson, and I believe Jack Wilson. I trust Jack Wilson. He says that he thinks there needs to be training, and I believe we need to have training required. Other than that, I support constitutional carry. Thank you.
Once again, I support the Republican Party platform, and one of the very top priorities is constitutional carry. And quite frankly, the week before Jack, and by the way, sir, I so appreciate you, but Jack and I met the very week before he took out the shooter and discussed this very issue. And he and I had a very good discussion about the fact that we're both on the security teams at our church. I'm on the security team at my church, and I'm so grateful that you, sir, were on the security team at your church. But, But just quickly, constitutional carry is something that, I don't know if you're familiar with this or aware of this, but if you walk north of the Red River, you can go all the way to Canada with a firearm on your side and do it legally. Not in the state of Texas. And I think that that's wrong, and I think we need to take the lead in protecting our Second Amendment rights. Thank you.
What is the definition of constitutional carry? Do you support it?
I absolutely do support constitutional carry. Constitutional carry is just simply the ability to carry the weapon that you already have the right to carry. It applies to law-abiding citizens. If you are a law-abiding citizen, all it says is you have the right to carry your firearm, period. And I absolutely support that. I will say this again, this goes back, we keep hearing the same theme over and over again, and I want to point this out. I do not trust the government. I don't trust them to stop. I think that it's obvious that they want, they don't like it when the citizenry has the ability to protect themselves. The Second Amendment, I'm a Second Amendment absolutist. It is the most important of our God-given rights, and the reason that it is that it is the right that protects all of our other God-given rights. It's extraordinarily important, and it's something that we ought to, as Texans, support 100%. I will point this out. Constitutional carry is, I don't know if you're aware of this, most people think that the state of Texas is at the forefront of the life issue, and they also think that they're at the forefront on the Second Amendment. And the truth is something else. The truth is that is not the case. You can go from the Red River and north all the way to Canada and have a firearm on your hip and be perfectly legal, all the way from the Red River and going north all the way to Canada. But however, if you go south, if you go into Texas right now, it is not legal, and we are not the ones at the front of this fight. And I want to make sure that Texas is at the front of that fight. It's one of the most important things that we can be doing, and so I absolutely support constitutional carry. I will say this last thing. We already have the right to keep and bear arms. That's our right. But we also have a responsibility to be able to proficiently use the firearms that we have. But that is an individual right. That is my responsibility. If you own a firearm, it's your responsibility. It is certainly not the responsibility of the government to be able to tell you, no, sir, you're not good enough, you're not a good enough shot. You didn't go through this class, and so therefore we're not going to allow you to have the right to carry the firearm that you have as a God-given right. So I just want to make it very clear that I'm in favor of constitutional carry without limitation. And as written, that is exactly what it is. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Christopher. I think apparently a lot of people might be confused about that based on the social media answer to that. Constitutional carry, as I said Tuesday night in Granbury, I support constitutional carry. I have some concerns, I said, about training. I didn't say I didn't support constitutional carry. I said I supported it, but I had concerns about training. I mentioned that Jack Wilson, who many of you know, he's the hero that saved the church, talked with him at length about it. He also has concerns. That doesn't mean that we think there should be a permit or anything. My concern is, how are people that have never handled guns in their life, they didn't grow up in this area, they grew up in New York or Dallas or whatever, we're talking about Texas, so let's say Dallas, and all of a sudden they want to go purchase a gun. Who's going to train them how to handle the gun properly and not accidentally shoot somebody? I just said I have a concern. I have a concern. It doesn't mean I don't support it, constitutional carry. I don't support a permitless carry, if that's what you want to call it. That's fine. I'm fine with not having a license or a fee. I'm just concerned about training. So that was my point, and it was certainly misstated. A good example is you don't go down and buy a car or have someone who's never driven before go buy a car and then suddenly just drive that car without learning how to drive that car. And that's all I was trying to point out, that we need to be concerned about that. So that would be my, I don't think we need to talk about the definition because that's been covered, but I support constitutional carry. I do have concerns about how people are trained. Thank you.